Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the Big and Furry Bovine. Joining me is Bronk from England.
Hello.
Brian from Arizona.
Nay.
And Tony from Minnesota. And me, I'm in Florida. And so that now you get an idea of, we have...
And where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah, right. But we have diversity here.
We have fucking cosmopolitanity here.
And if anyone else wants to join, by the way, this
you should have your head examined.
Yeah, tete-a-tete. There's the link directly to the studio. You can hop right in here. Hi, Cindy. How you doing? It was really interesting. The post-game show, the first. Last week was over 1,000 people. Not even 350 this week. I don't know what that means.
Nobody cares when you win. Nobody cares when they win. You know,
nobody cares.
It's happened before. Nobody gives a shit.
It's unbelievable. I mean, they actually wallow in their misery, some of these folks. And, I just thought it would be good to come back on here on Monday.
They need to go back and watch the... They need to go back and watch the Deshaun Kaiser year.
Right. I mean, look, we can get excited all we want to get excited about when they're really terrible. But, the vast mediocrity, the vast middle, as I call it, might not be too exciting. And to be very honest with you, the Browns are not an exciting football team because we're not ready to be that yet. We are trying to learn to be a more efficient football team. But, the name of the show says, it's like we're 2-1. We have the first winning record in 84 games. Why are fans so just kind of unimpressed? And, we can talk about that a little bit as soon as we get, some of the news out of the way. Of course, Jojo Natson is out for the season with a torn ACL. Yeah, he's gone.
He's going to get killed anyway at some point, but it's...
Yeah, a little guy. I mean, the thing that's interesting, people are, Gerald the Ice Cube McNeil. It's like, this is a different game. No, it's a different game now. The guys who were huge back then are larger. The Ice Cube could just outrun in a straight line. Today, these monsters are as fast as the returners. And
Dick Shafrath wouldn't even be drafted nowadays.
No,
forget this shit.
Yeah, it's a completely different game. So you don't have that kind of size. He looks so small on camera that and it was. On the punt return, by the way, that he did the ACL, and it's amazing because nobody even mentioned it on the telecast. They didn't even show him being carted off or lifted off or anything like that. Hey, KP, how you doing?
Well, clearly that was a Redskins broadcast because it was Fox. It was being back from because it was an away game for the Redskins, Orange Skins, whatever you want to call them.
The Washington Sphinxers.
Spielman did it once. Spielman did it once. He actually said Redskins. He goes, "Pardon me."
Yeah, it was their feet basically, and we were piggybacking on the back of it, but. That's why they mentioned it, because they didn't care. It was a bar out.
Your UK brother, Big Lurker UK, how you doing?
Well, I've never met. It could be a brother, it could be a sister, it could be a transgender person.
Yeah, it could be, or somewhere in between. Yeah,
a transgender black Marxist. That would be Brian's worst nightmare. So
and they were asking Kevin Stefanski about the injuries coming out of the game, and he, reiterated it was an ACL tear for Natson, that Tay Davis has an elbow injury they're going to monitor. He's going to miss more time. Denzel Ward, he's a linebacker. Yeah, we could use one. Denzel Ward with the groin injury couldn't play in the second half. they're hoping that he's going to work his way through it this week. But boy, I'll tell you, that's a way to make something a season-long injury. At some point, you got to suck it up and rest a guy. I don't know whether this is the time to do that or not.
Isn't that what happened to Landry last year?
Yeah, soft tissue injuries are really destructive. Really destructive.
How destructive are they?
You know, and Greedy Williams, Jacob Phillips, Jacob Dillon, Bob Dylan's son. Yeah. Olivier Vernon, Sir Lawrence Olivier.
Sir Lawrence Olivier Vernon.
That's correct. And Olivier de Havilland. All of these are progressing, and we'll see where they are throughout the course of the week. So there's no promises on Greedy Williams returning, you know, and the way he heals, I highly doubt it. You know, I think there are some things that are said in a press conference the day after that are indicative of the way the head coach thinks. They asked him about the 11-play drive, 75 yards, that put the Browns back in the lead. And his comment was, "We were a resilient bunch yesterday. You know, we went down twice and we needed to do that." You know, the game takes 11 guys, like we've talked about before. And I thought all of them, and I would single out the wide receivers especially, blocking downfield. Now, isn't it amazing? I was waiting for the damn vet to call back. They only call you when you're on the air. You know, screw them. I mean, you know, I don't need it. But, you know, then he brought up Odell Beckham, 4 catches, 4 huge plays, 4 first downs. That way, giving him his little pat on the behind. So that way he won't sulk. You know, the fact that they don't have anybody lined up to replace JoJo Natson is really scary. You would think that the two people, Ernest Johnson, and then you have the other one, Peoples Jones.
Let's see him, man.
Well, look, if Donovan Peoples-Jones was drafted this year and he can't beat out D'Ernest Johnson or JoJo Natson, that might tell you something. The thing is, they obviously wanted, you know, somebody who had some wiggle. But Donovan Peoples-Jones does have some speed, but we don't know if he has the hands.
More importantly, he's got some size, so he'll be able to run through some tackles.
No, if he can catch the ball, Brian, that's the thing. I mean, you saw D'Ernest Johnson try to do a fair catch, and it was wait.
Yeah, I'm started again.
Yeah,
JoJo Starbuck.
Yeah, JoJo Starbuck would be. But Terry Bradshaw hitting that shit, you know.
JoJo Starbuck. Who's the guy with her?
What? Terry Bradshaw. That was Terry Bradshaw's squeeze.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is a season ender for JoJo Natson, and the Browns have to figure out what they're going to do. The Browns played 3 receivers after Natson left the game, and that's all we had. Yeah. That's all we had on active day because Rashard Higgins was inactive.
Right.
So it's interesting that, you know, you never know who's going to get hurt, on what circumstance it's going to happen, but it happens. You know, then he went ahead and he you know, said nice things about Myles Garrett and Odell Beckham again. And then Harrison Bryant's development as a tight end, you know, that kind of stuff. But Bryant made a very important block on a touchdown run, and really was psyched up about it. So the tight ends are doing something that, you know, our tight end from last year, who's always injured, never wanted to do, and that's block. So we do have a physical group of tight ends who are more than willing to stick their nose in the fray and not just try to make leaping catches downfield. It's interesting. Somebody asked him a question about the cutback, and this is something that I was very much interested in during the course of the halftime show. and the post-game show was that it seemed that they were over-pursuing defensively.
Yeah.
They asked him specifically about Nick Chubb scoring a touchdown on a cutback run. And it's interesting what Stefanski said. He said, having coached running backs before, you have to just give them their reads and get out of their way. You don't want a running back who overthinks. And we've had guys like that before. You know, I mean, they say this guy's fast, but, you know, if he's thinking about what he's doing, he's come to a complete halt and nobody gets up to speed pausing.
Wow.
You know, Stump Mitchell, you know, is his coach, direct coach. And, you know, he gives them a read, gives them their technique, and then lets those guys trust their eyeballs. And yeah, the one play was there was a crease where they were showing the hole on CBS.
Was it really the hole? It was. You can go ahead, explain it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, what's behind the play once everything is swept over will always look open. It's what you can hop, step back to, and then back cut into. And the second time around, he saw that opportunity, took advantage of it. The thing that makes Nick Chubb so dangerous is that it seems that once he hits a crease, he's going to bounce off somebody. It is very hard once he picks up speed to, you know, and you saw in the touchdown run too, he just runs through people. He's fast and he's strong at the same time. So, but again, this is the head coach deferring to the running backs coach and not trying to be all things to all people. I think that's significant. I guess Mac Wilson was technically in the game. I didn't, you know, the announcing was quite substandard, and they didn't tell us when he was. They want, you know, both Kevin Johnson and Mac Wilson to have more reps next week, and they're going to need to, because where they're going, they're going to need a bigger boat. And then here's another interesting thing, and this could come out of the mouth of Marty Schottenheimer. On quarterback Baker Mayfield having less than 10 pass attempts in the second half of both of the last two games, both of which were wins. Is that a favorable formula? And Stefanski said, I think the favorable formula is having a lead in the fourth quarter. And if you can run it efficiently, be smart about how you throw it, that's the formula for winning. Here's another thing that I was thrilled to read. And I'm gushing with positivity about this coach. You know, Jedrick Wills did not have a great game, and he had those two false start penalties. You know, here's what Stefanski said. I think he was disappointed in those two penalties. I know I was, and I let him know about it. That is part of this deal. You have to be great with the cadence. Those were two that he wants back. We cannot let that happen. We just have to make sure that we clean it up. Once he settled in, he played really solid football for us. But I do not want him to have to go through that to settle in. I think that pretty well says what you want to hear. Instead of, well, we have to get better.
We don't practice penalties. We don't practice penalties. Oh, we're going to make them run the field 50 yards back and forth, whenever they do a penalty.
Yeah, Marty used to make him wear a tie on the road, remember? I mean, you know, it's like, hey, no, I'm serious. The head coach sometimes has to, you know, we've gotten used to, we've gotten used to guys like Retigliano, great guy, and a wonderful coach who is a little bit more of a downfield gambler kind of guy. And people wanted Freddie Kitchens to be like that, but he was unprepared. You know, I think this group of players needs this kind of a guy who is this system oriented.
Oh, totally.
And just needs to keep reinforcing, you fucked up, we don't accept that. You keep fucking up, you ain't going to be out there. And I think that's what the whole story is with Rashard Higgins. I think that he takes plays off. I think that He does what he does when he wants to do it, and it's not full effort, full time. And that would automatically put you on the bench with this head coach. Then the press actually asked him about Donovan Peoples-Jones, and his only comment was, "We'll work through that. We have some candidates in the building. That's something I'm going to sit down with Mike Prefer, and talk through as the week unfolds how we want to attack this." But there is
like taking somebody off the waiver wire, doesn't it?
No, I mean, it is entirely possible that we will go outside the group that we've got and throw somebody on the practice squad and put somebody out there who has experience doing this, because you cannot afford, if Dearness Johnson fumbles that ball falling on his backwards catch, we're fucked. They're in the end zone, and then we're just screwed. You just can't. There is such a fine line now between winning and losing because of the way that we play the game and the type of team, the lack of preparation because of the pandemic. There is just no room for error in this. You need to have somebody with very sure hands and somebody who also has the capability of making a play. And that's not always easy to find.
Especially when you're going against a team like Dallas that can actually put points on the board.
Well, that's just it. They will make you pay in a way that Washington didn't make you pay. As for Baker Mayfield, he wasn't thrilled with the way he played. And he was talking up the defense, the turnovers, and all that.
Have you had a chance to rewatch the game?
I really have not, because of this sciatic condition I'm dealing with. Right. I'm trying not to sit for long periods of time.
Well, right before the show, I watched because I have League Pass. I watched the condensed game, the 40 minutes.
Oh, cool!
Showed the plays. All right, and I just finished watching that. And I want to reinforce my point that I made on the post-game show, that we should never fucking do empty backfield shotguns. And even when we have like Kareem Hunt back there in the backfield with them at the same time, 3/4 of the time the plays were a total abortion, and they'll be illegal once the new Chief Justice comes in here, the new court justice. So you should never do that again. There was one good play that happened, and that was the go-ahead touchdown to Harrison Barnes. And if you recall correctly, Mayfield was running for his fucking life on that play, and just happened to see, Harrison Barnes stick up his hand in the end zone. He threw it to him. Every time that we ran that formation, Baker was running for his life. Montez Sweat was chasing him. That play where he did the intentional grounding, that was another play, the sacks. Go back and look at it. And
honestly, Baker's not fast enough to escape. I mean,
Baker shouldn't be critical of himself when the plays are designed so that he can't succeed, or that the defense knows what's coming.
I think that what he was saying, and I'm gonna quote him. He says, "Taking care of the ball is the most important thing. But I could have played way better. I could have gotten the ball out and saved a couple of those sacks. The protection was great. I could have re-ID'd the play where the intentional grounding happened. That's 2 weeks in a row, by the way. And the first play coming out where I got sacked. Some things that I can be a lot better on. It was a great job by Odell Beckham knocking the ball down. I should have put the ball more outside and let him run under it. We're going to take our chances on 50-50 balls, but he did a great job knocking the ball down." He's aware of the fact that he isn't playing great football.
Okay.
And I think that what he's doing is critiquing himself and saying, looking back at the game, where he did do well was throwing to Harrison Bryant in the back of the end zone. And it was interesting because Stefanski and his presser.
Yeah, but he said that play wasn't meant to go that way, and it was a bad play.
He said it's a lousy designed play. That's exactly what Stefanski said. He said, it's a good thing that Baker didn't go there. Badly designed play. Unfortunately, he stayed alive in the pocket and found the guy running across the end zone. So, you know, you give credit both ways. If you miss a read or if you catch a read, the problem for Baker is that he throws probably more accurately as he's moving out of the pocket. But the problem with that is he's moving away from his protection, and that creates potential problems. In the pocket, he gets passes knocked down. Out of the pocket, a guy like Montez Sweat can just outrun him and just run him over like a truck.
The other problem with Montez Sweat or guys like him is that Baker does his read and throws the ball in the direction where Montez Sweat came from, which is where there should be an open guy, theoretically. Then Sweat will fucking knock the ball down or catch it in the air, tip it up in the air and catch it or do whatever. So we can't run those plays. You know, Baker's not fast enough. He's not tall enough. We can't run these plays. They're shit.
Yeah, I mean, today, Doug Flutie doesn't make it into the NFL, not because of his size, but because he doesn't have speed. The speed at quarterback today is a huge issue, and you can see that Dwayne Haskins is going to have a problem because he doesn't move very well. And Baker Mayfield
will be twice as fast as Baker Mayfield and Haskins.
Baker Mayfield just is not, not a running quarterback. But it's interesting. One of the sacks that he refers to, he says, I could not see Harrison Bryant on a stick route. Now, I watched this play after it happened, and he had moved to a spot. He was kind of coming across. He stopped right in the zone where he was supposed to be, and I could not see him. The implication is, again, his size. He couldn't see over the line. He says, I should have gotten the ball out and took a sack. That's completely on me, not the protection. The intentional grounding one, again, I should have re-ID'd and put us in a better position to win on that play. That is completely on me. So, I think what Stefanski is preaching this year, which I think is long overdue in Cleveland, is the notion of, you're really happy to be 2-1. And his answer was really good. He said, our job is to go 1-0 every week. Exactly. And this is a guy who's a grinder. And I can relate to that because in business, that's what I was. If you're looking for the amazing decision that makes, look, there are people who have all kind of prescience and like they buy stocks when, they were extremely low and they make a fortune because they're able to see, at least in the old days when everybody was in the stock market or allowed to be. But, if Apple came out, there are lots of people who stalled. There are people who really have a good ability to hit the home run, so to speak. Guys like me, we're grinders, and we make a lot of good, smaller decisions that put together helps us win in the long run. And this is the way Stefanski is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how different would the team have been if they'd hired Stefanski last year instead of Freddie Kitchens?
Well, I mean, we'd be 1 year further into a system and we'd have players who'd have accountability or not be on the goddamn roster. That's what it would amount to. But I'm thrilled that the coach gets it. I mean, it isn't what he's basically saying is, it isn't how great you look. A win's a win's a win's a win. We go on from week to week. Right now, somebody pointed out in the chat room in yesterday's post-game show, this is only the third preseason week predicated on the lack of preparation. And you really do have to look at it that way because it's like nobody going into a new system is doing dick in the league. And we're 2-1. So, and Stefanski's not using it as an excuse either. They played lousy in the first week against a team that was just so much better than they are. And we're going to probably see some sad days ahead of teams that are just more loaded than we are. And the Dallas Cowboys may be 1-2, but they played Seattle as tough as you could play them. Some critical mistakes at critical times in the game make the difference. But, Dak Prescott, threw a pick and that he wanted back. Don't they all? But they're going to move the football. They're going to put up points. And against the Browns defense, which is right now got very loose-limbed, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for us. But again, if you win against Cincinnati and if you win against Washington, that's where we should be right now. And if we can grow during the course of the season, this coach realizes this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Life to Freddie Kitchens was a goddamn sprint. He couldn't stick with the basis of a playbook that had been successful the year before because another OC had come up with it, right? So he had to go ahead and just do whatever stupidity there was. This guy has a system. And, Tony, are you with us?
Meh.
You've seen it. You've seen it. Do the Browns look like the Vikings?
They look exactly like the Vikings a couple of years ago. Down the field target and Beckham, underneath target and Thielen, running backs getting the ball, whether in screen passes, short passes, or handoffs. Blocking schemes look the same. Usage of tight ends is big. This is the 2018-19 Vikings to a T.
Yeah, I saw them live at Wembley. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yep.
Who is Gary Lee? You mean, I don't know who in the hell.
Who the fuck?
Then
I'll tell you.
Gary V. Is it Gary V? I don't know.
Gary.
And then somebody threw out Gary Glitter. And
it's not Gary Gaetti, is it? Fuck.
Hey, little boy. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he got busted with little Thai girls.
It seems to me Gary wasn't his first name. I know who he's referring to. The guy who got fired in Washington, D.C. The guy was on WHK Talk Radio 1420 up in Cleveland back in my days. Gary D. I think is who you're referring to. Does that make sense?
Amsterdam says it's Gary V, and he's pretty adamant. He's posted 3 frickin' times that it's Gary V. Damn it!
Yeah.
Austin Corbett.
And hey, Doggy Bones, Mike McCarthy was questioned in Dallas's loss. Again, it's the utilization of timeouts or the lack thereof. We had a shot at Mike McCarthy, and nobody seemed to want him. And now it looks like the decision that we made makes me feel a lot better about the direction we went. At least it makes sense for the group of players that we got. I don't want a coach's player. Or a player's coach, excuse me.
Same thing, I think.
Yeah. I want a guy who, has a system that is proven to have worked in the NFL and implement that damn thing. I felt so bad years ago when I'm watching Isaiah Crowell run for all that yardage and watching, Shanahan, who, leave Cleveland, and with it, that whole scheme just went to hell.
Yeah, we had Alex Mack too back then too, but I totally agree with you. Shanahan, Alex Mack, Joe Thomas, you know what to do with those pieces.
Can you imagine? Yeah, but you stick with the system, and if you keep changing things, it's just ridiculous. And I hope we have our long-term guy, because he's doing what I think, are the right things to do.
Well, the only way he won't be a long-term guy is if the owner decides that he's smarter than the coach, and they have some sort of falling out.
Yeah, well, I think that from the Browns' perspective, if you're a fan and you're not excited, and again, we're pointing out all the things that are positives that come out of a game like this. If you're looking to be titillated, watch porn.
Big word.
If you're there to watch a franchise get built from a foundation point in the hardest imaginable season to do that, then that's what you're watching, you know? And I think from my perspective, it's satisfying and gratifying to see that at least, you know, it's not game management in the sense, I mean, we're scoring 30 points a game, folks, in the last 2 games, you know? So it isn't just that we're trying to win 14-10. This isn't that. It's just that everything is, you know, predicated on the running game. And the Browns, when they got stymied in the beginning of the second half, everything, and in the first half of the game where the running game wasn't going, you know, it takes a while sometimes to wear people down. Sometimes you see what tendencies are on the other side of the line, and that's what assistant coaches, line coaches notice during the course of games. And they say, hey, if a guy is looking to go this way, dance him that way, and we'll cut it back. We'll do what we have to do, but you got to get that running game going. And
it also helped that Chase Young and what the hell is his name?
Iafallo or something like that.
Yeah, guys.
Iapinus or IOU, whatever his name is.
Iapinus, what?
Yeah.
Once after they went out of the game, then it kind of loosened up the runs, the bigger runs.
I've seen second-rate football teams manhandle the Cleveland Browns in years past. The fact is, every team gets injuries, and I'm not wishing anything bad on Chase Young, fine young football player, and groin injuries, soft tissue injuries, especially in this kind of a year, happen. But we've had more than our share as well, and our defensive line isn't totally healthy, and God only knows our defensive secondary has been a disaster from an injuries perspective. And, you know, everybody has to play with what they got. And basically, your roster is your roster. And, you know, you get an idea of what depth you have, who can contribute and who can't. And it's going to be wheels in motion because there's going to be guys demoted to the practice squad. I would not at all be surprised if Rashard Higgins is let go. I would not be surprised of anything at this point because you're going to need people for depth in certain positions that really are going to play rather than just somebody taking up a slot, you know, on game day and not play. You know, Garrett had 7 quarterback pressures and was the direct cause of 3 Washington turnovers. So that is an important thing. 154 yards passing, but, you know, there were passes that were important ones. The one that kept the drive going to Odell Beckham, the throw to Harrison Bryant, those were big time throws. And, you know, again, you eliminate a lot of the damage that the overly competitive Baker Mayfield would make if you were letting him throw 45 times a game. So
well, we'll go back to the game and see how many of those completions happened in the under center, and how many completions happened while he was in the shotgun, and also the empty shotgun, and then you know.
And I'm sure that I'm sure that they're taking a long look at that because again, I know they want to get him back in his drop quicker, and I know that they want him to be able to view the field. But the fact of the matter is that running game, you know, and you can run the ball virtually on any down with the 2 running backs that we have. You catch a crease, that can go for as big a play as a downfield pass. So with a lot less risk.
Plays were great. The plays with the fullback that was in there. You know, and he caught pass and got a first down in the 3rd quarter or 4th quarter, whatever it was. You know.
But one thing that I did notice that there were, you know, when they just ran the ball inside the tackles, it wasn't such a hot idea. In the first half of the game, we were just being stuffed, and they were
the
just
quick hitting runs were not working. The runs where we hand the ball off and they have to hit something straight away, they were blocked up.
That's right. And what I noticed is when things started going a little wider, that opened up those back cut opportunities, and there were opportunities to spread the field a little bit, not vertically but horizontally. That opened up some opportunities that allowed some kick blocks to be able to get guys just get that crease, because either one of our running backs, if they hit a crease, and especially Hunt, who can really he can get going in a hurry, and if you give him a crease, he's 6 yards down the field. If you give a crease to Chubb, he's the secondary and he's running over people. Cody Parkey had a really good game. 6 touchbacks on kickoffs. That's the first time this season that the team has avoided the other team's kickoff returns, period.
And if you looked around the league, if you watched Red Zone at all, you saw a lot of missed extra points, kicks being boinged off the bars. You saw missed field goals. That Dallas game would have been totally different if all the kicks had been made in that. So,
and the other thing is, for fans who are really unexcited about all this, I mean, let's look at it this way. Washington started only 2 of their 12 drives outside of their own 25. You force that young man behind center to move the team 75 yards.
He's not John Elway.
That's exactly right. I mean,
he's not John Elway. He's not Ben Roethlisberger.
That's right. I mean, so you make him work and earn what he can get.
Or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, but knowing that our defense...
They had a 99-yard drive.
Exactly. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, but our defense is challenged. There's no question about that. But you can't allow teams like the Bengals had much better field position, and look how many points they put up on us. But there's always the chance that, when you got to move 75 plays, 75 yards, and how many, usually a 75-yard drive, like for the Browns, it was 11 plays. It's going to be somewhere in 10 to 14 plays to get that done. Can you do that without making a mistake? And Dwayne Haskins, obviously, historically, is not that guy. And once he falls behind, yes, he can come back because he can make big plays, but then he can just turn it right back over again.
Well, I think they'll get better. I think they'll stick with him for a while. I think, Rivera will stick with him and he'll get better.
I have a feeling that Alex Smith will be back by week 6.
And we talked about this on the pregame show on Friday. They were only converting 30% of their third down conversions. This is not Washington is not a good third down conversion team, and it's why it's so damn important that you get a guy into. When they started giving us grief is when they started hitting creases in their running game on the hurry up offense, the no huddle. And they just ran through holes. And, we not only did we get tired, we kind of lost our balance and we couldn't stop. Everything was like 5-6 yards on first down. That makes a quarterback like this three times better than what he is.
Yeah.
But you saw
we're going to get a lot from now on, because people are going to see, Myles Garrett, his hands on his hips going.
Yeah. But you see
the third quarter.
Yeah. Well, by them going to the hurry up, they also couldn't substitute on the defensive line or the linebackers.
Yeah.
Well, and that's always the case. But I mean, you saw what happened when they were in third and longs. There's all kinds of errors that were being made on the field, and guys who were not running patterns. McLaurin was not a factor on third and longs, and and that creates a problem for Washington. Percentage wise, Baker Mayfield. If you're looking at what the PFF grades, Baker Mayfield at a 63.3, and an adjusted completion percentage of 81.8. Kareem Hunt at a 63.9, Janovich at a 57.6, Chubb at a 56.8. Hunt dropped a pass. Chubb had 5 avoided tackles, picked up 5 first downs, and had 4 rushes of at least 10 yards. the bottom line is Nick Chubb is in there to get the ball in his hands and to move the ball down the field. And I don't think that Nick Chubb is a great blocker. I think that he's a great running back, and you use him for what he can do. Odell Beckham
What's his average? Again, over 5?
5.7. I mean, this has just been
Jim Brown.
amazingly consistent. I mean, and he got stuffed early in the game, but boy, he makes it up. He'll bust out a 24-yard run, bam, just like that, and he's right on course again. It's very hard to hold him down for an entire football game. Odell Beckham had a 76.6 rating, Jarvis Landry a 73.0, and Kaderil Hodge a 57.8. JoJo Natson a 49.5 and no knee. Hooper was at a 70.7 and Harrison Bryant at a 59.6. So there's that. The offensive line, again, look at the numbers. Joel Bitonio with an 81, Wyatt Teller with an 80.3, Conklin with a 73.2, Treader with a 70.6, Jedrick Wills down at a 57.8. We know he did not have a great game. Conklin and Wills each gave up a sack, and Conklin and Bitonio gave up 2 of the offensive line's 6 pressures. But Bitonio, as a run blocker, 79.9. Teller, 75. This is interesting because we were asking whether Wyatt Teller was just kind of a 2-game phenomenon here. But going up against a better defensive line, he still held his grade up. Yeah. So I think that's significant.
I mean, it's going to sound really boring to go out in every week, every pregame show and say, well, if we could run the ball, we have a good chance of winning. And that's going to be true. If we can't run the ball, we're fucked. I think we can run the ball on Dallas next week. I think we have a chance to win. I don't think we will win, but I think we can get Chubb his 100 yards, next week. So,
and Jacob Leslie, yeah. This is what it's about. You can only play who they put in front of you, and it really is. What we are right now is Randall Tex Cobb. We're going to do boxing comparisons. We're terrible.
Not his pro wrestling career.
No. Better yet, we're terrible Tim Witherspoon. We are is a dangerous thing, but kind of one of these people who you got to get through. Yeah. We're going to put some hurt on you physically, and as time goes on, you're going to see that the Browns are going to dish out some fair punishment, and a team that's vastly more talented than them are going to run over them in the first year of existence in this scheme. But a lot of other teams are going to find out that there's some stubbornness and resistance to this bunch, that they're not just going to blow away in the wind. And whatever your schedule is, and we have the Jets coming up, so yes, but we have Dallas right in front of us. I'm sorry?
Yeah, the Jets and the Giants like in December, I think.
Right. So, I mean, these are games you have to win. And, and right, the games like, the Steelers and Dallas, that those are the ones that determine whether you make it to the next level or not. And so far, I'm pleased. I can't find fault with what the Browns did. I wish that we were further along in the process, but when you keep firing head coaches and you keep changing systems, you're not ever going to be very far in the process. So hopefully we're starting.
That's the owner's fault. So
the owner can only fuck this up because he's got his analytics people in place. He's got a head coach who's on board with analytics and who also is a disciplinarian who knows how to, obviously, to get players to do his will. And that's all great stuff. It's up to Haslam, and he can fuck it up. He can do something stupid. Which,
let's go to Cal. Do you think Stefanski has the respect of the team?
I think at this point, what he's doing is not caving to anybody. He's getting his young players to understand, first of all, you play through injuries. Second of all, if you don't work hard in practice, you don't play on game day, and you're inactivated. And I think that he is praising those people who put out the effort in the game and really are high motor people, and character becomes a big thing. It's like, we were losing twice, but we didn't lose our cool, and we continued, and we won the game. And really, without coming out and saying we would have lost that game the last 3 years, I mean, we would have found a way.
Jackson, Freddie Kitchens would have thrown up 5 of his trick plays. Baker would have had 3 interceptions easily.
I'm just catching this, Brian. Why is the Big Ten commissioner an asshole?
Probably because they're not playing football right now.
Oh,
yeah, because we were talking about good OSU quarterbacks, and I said Fields isn't that bad, and Am said he's gonna be in the NFL now. And I said, yeah, thanks to the asshole Big Ten commission.
Oh, well, look, we'll see how it all goes down. I mean, right now it's not all.
He'll let his kid play in the fucking SEC, but goddamn if anybody in the Big Ten plays.
Well, the Big Ten's coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
October 24th.
Yeah, I mean,
but all of these kids have already. A lot of these kids have already opted out.
I gotta tell you,
I don't think a lot of them are going to be let back in.
Yeah, if you're the NCAA, I don't think you can grant a waiver because who knows if they've already made money. It opens up Pandora's box. If they've signed endorsements, you're like, oh, you're made money, but you can play college football, and then all the players that didn't make money will be like, well, where's my fucking cut? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that there are a lot of college students on campus and football players who have, had positive tests. Mm-hmm. And to be honest about this, you think the roster looks bad for a professional team. Well, if you're missing 6 or 7 players due to coronavirus at the collegiate level, I mean, can you honestly say that an Ohio State team that was missing 7 of its players due to coronavirus and running wild through the program, that's a representative Ohio State University football team? There are many ways of looking at this, and I know everybody wants to see those players play for Ohio State before the pros step in and steal them away. I get that. Look at LSU. LSU lost Joe Burrow and lost their first game of the season. And Ogeron was saying, we got to look into this. So
I'll hurt your voice doing that one.
Yeah. But I think that, conferences make their choices, and it isn't that the coronavirus is going away, which is, all part of the fake news that comes out of Washington. It's not going away. It's proliferating amongst different states, and people are going to get it. And eventually everybody, a large percentage of people are going to get it, but not in time for herd immunity, which doesn't exist, by the way, the concept, not at 22% of positivity, which is how many percent is guesstimated in the United States has actually already had the coronavirus. That means there are 78% of the population that hasn't. And some of those people are going to be young people in college campuses. I don't denounce people for saying we're not going to play football or we are going to play football, because in the end, it'll all come out. The proof's always in the pudding. If Ohio State came out and played Michigan and they were wiped out by the COVID virus, I mean, and Michigan rolled over Ohio State, the second and third units of Ohio State, everybody would be whining and complaining, I blew our chance at a national championship because all of our players were sick. There's no way to satisfy everybody in this. There just isn't. And, you're going to get your football. What was troubling to me is that the universities caved under pressure from Washington, D.C. And it makes me wonder what the connection there is between the money grubbing Big Ten and the money grubbers in Washington and what it's all about. That scared me more than anything. So, if you say, hey, look, we're taking a stance on this, we're not playing until the spring, and then, people in Washington start criticizing you and putting you under a microscope and going out on rallies and decrying you, and you change your mind, it doesn't make anybody look certain about this, I don't think anybody's certain about this. It could end up a great thing and we'll have a great football season, or it could end up really, there ain't no bubble on campus, babe. I can tell you that. And Doggy Bones comes up with a good statistic, a 36.9 PFF score in 6 snaps. So Mac was on the field for 6 snaps with that bad knee. Yeah, so not so great.
Goodson did have a good game, though.
Who did?
Goodson, number 93.
Yes, and I've been very critical of him in coverage. And he had a good coverage game. Again, a lot of this is a work in progress. We'll see if this was just the fact that, you go past McLaurin, who's a big play guy, and, they lost their other guy who had 2 touchdown passes.
Inman.
Inman. He hadn't scored a touchdown since Hector was a pup. And he left the game with a bad left wrist, it looked like. So it wasn't like they had frontline receivers out there too. So, we'll see. We'll see what it is. It's one game at a time. And Jacob is saying it's a huge game. That's right. We should lose the game. And if we win, then everyone's going to get really hyper excited about this football team, and maybe a little early for that too. But no, I don't see the Browns even being within 2 touchdowns in this game. And this becomes,
if they do win, I just want to see Michael Irvin shit himself on fucking TV.
And he might. Yeah. But the thing with Dallas is they're a good football team, better than 1 and 2. And they're not going to drop at home, even though home isn't quite the same.
Well, we played Seattle good last year, and we should have won that game. I think we match up okay against the Cowboys. If we win this game and the expectations get sky high, we're going to get smacked down by the Colts, because I think the Colts will fuck us in the ass, regardless of whether we win or lose.
Well, Ezekiel Elliott did not get any yardage to speak of. And
their lines are not that good. Their offensive line isn't that good, and their defensive line isn't that good.
Well, I'll tell you, Ezekiel Elliott looked like he gave up on a few plays. He was running odd patterns out of the backfield, and he didn't look real happy about what was going on and not real energized and engaged to me in Washington.
I don't know how good their system is, without Garrett there. I think Garrett was a bit underappreciated.
Yeah. And as far as Dak Prescott, he can run. So,
he can get a 20, 25-yard gain without.
Yeah, the Browns are going to have their hands full. Absolutely have their hands full. I don't see them going 1 and 3 at home.
You got to score at least 30 points in this game.
Yeah, and everybody picks against us. When we win, they don't want to point it out. And I agree wholeheartedly that there weren't bold headlines about the Browns. The Browns are best off, Mr. Gratification, just flying under the radar. Let's not let anyone talk about us. Let's see if we can catch somebody sleeping here, because as we keep working, we get full weeks of work in the system. Maybe we can catch somebody asleep. Now, the Colts just beat the living shit out of, now I'm getting the Jets. Well,
I had 2 pick sixes against Darnold.
Yeah,
first play of the game was a pick six.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you look at what they gave up, and those were the 2 teams involved in what got Darnold to the Jets and everything the Jets gave up for that lunkhead. And he is a lahoozer. I mean, this guy.
That's why I was on the anybody but Darnold train.
Yeah.
Well, and and again, I think I looked at what he was doing last year, and they're saying, how is he accelerated ahead of Baker Mayfield? I don't understand. I mean, I have not seen anything from Darnold that would lead me to believe that, he's playing for a lousy organization, a lousy team, lousy system, and a head coach who's a schmuck, a total schmuck. And Adam Gase has to lose his job. And he will lose his job, but not until he's totally ripped the organization asunder. It's horrible what you're seeing in New York with the Jets and the Giants. I mean, it is just the big ofer in New York City, which is number one market in America. And they got the Knicks, they got the Giants, they got the Jets, baby. I mean, it just isn't going anywhere.
And the Islanders.
Yeah.
They're baseball teams, so they're really good.
And it's exactly right. And what are you going to do? You're going to bench him. You bench him, and then you've acknowledged that you gave away all those draft picks and all those opportunities for nothing at all. And your organization is depleted. And you don't even have the quarterback you thought you had.
Chicago Bears.
I sat and watched Darnold take a safety in this game, and it's like, what are you doing? I mean, we've seen that in Cleveland from quarterbacks who just like Deshaun Kaiser, who just have like a complete blackout, you drop back your pass in your end zone. Yeah, you got to get rid of the ball quick. Why would anybody go back into the pocket and not throw the ball away? I mean, but pat it in their hand and be looking. I mean, you're just going to get whacked. And that's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment.
The best was listening to Colin Coucher to actually say that Darnold is regressing.
Is what?
Regressing.
From what? I mean,
an average player to a below average player.
Well, and again,
Okay.
That's the one thing he hasn't. That's the one thing he hasn't done. Doggy Bones was get trapped under the goddamn American flag.
Yeah. Well, do I think the Browns might be passing more against Dallas? I think you establish your strength. You got to come at them. I mean, you got to say, this is who we are. You stop what we do. And if you do stop us, we're probably going to have some problems. But we've got it. Look, we do have Landry and we do have Odell Beckham. And and I'm not going to tell you that Baker Mayfield is the great future of football, but we have enough that we can surprise you outside if we need to do that. But we can't live on that solely. We have to have balance. If you stop the Browns running game, and we're going to see it, well, we already saw it, with the Ravens, and we're going to see it with the Steelers. Steelers are going to really try to smother the Browns running game, and that's going to be the difficulty in facing teams that are in our own division, is that, we were able to run easily against Cincinnati over 200 yards, and it was a win. You're not going to have that opportunity against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, Connor ran for over 100 yards, and they wind up beating the Texans. And honestly, that's the first sign of life that we've seen from the Steelers' running game this year. So, and that you don't want to see, because if their running game starts working, then even an old 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger is going to hurt you with play action. He's going to find people because he's still got it up here, even if he's not in his legs what he was when he was younger.
I'll make a comparison about Baker Mayfield here. Baker Mayfield has started to remind me a lot like Brian Sipes' career and his approach to. I mean, how many years was Sipe here before we actually had that red bright 88 near championship season?
5.
Syke came here in 1974. He was starting games in 1974. That was 1980. And his quarterback ratings in 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79 were all 80 or below.
But you remember that he was sharing duties at the beginning of the year with Mike Phipps, and Phipps was the guy they got in 1970 that they thought the kid from Purdue who was going to be.
So Syke, a long time to develop, and then also to get Rutigliano and
Mike and Greg Pruitt.
Yeah. He had to deal with Forrest Gregg. He had to deal with all these other asshole coaches, Nick Scourge, that we had back in those days. So let's give Baker more of a chance to settle into this system. And if he's still struggling by the end of October, November, then maybe we can make a better judgment.
And the best receiver on those teams was Dave Logan.
A fair hooker,
Yeah. I'll finish the show with this. Has Mitchell Trubisky started his last game for the Bears? Probably not, because Foles could get hurt and he could be back on the field. Foles is not an escapable kind of quarterback, but Trubisky has obviously just not been what they had hoped that he would be. And I think the head coach. It's funny when you're 2-0 and you bench a guy, and they have announced that Nick Foles will be the starter for next week. You're undefeated on a season, and you bench your starting quarterback. You do what you have to do to win, but it's going to be very hard to salvage Mitchell Trubisky after all of this. The thing that amazes me, the Eagles and the Bengals that went on and on and on with no resolution. The NFC East, if you look at it, is a combined 2-9-1 through 3 weeks. That's a 208 winning percentage. All right. But the funny thing is, Washington and Dallas are tied for first, and they're 1-2. I mean, this will tell you the NFC East is just every bit as bad as you can imagine. It's possible that a team will come out of there with no more than I think that Dallas will be better, but these other teams are just not good at all. And the Cowboys have allowed 78 points over the last 2 weeks. So, if you look at it just from that perspective, this could be a high scoring game that we lose, And the only thing is, we got to keep the score down by running the football, because if we fall behind, we're not in a position to use our running game, and it's going to be ugly.
If we're not in a position, we still have to use our running game, because that's the only thing that's going to work.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the Jets have already given up, and they're going to get Adam Gase fired. I can almost guarantee you. They're going to play Denver, and Denver's got nothing this year. Absolutely nothing. They're injured, and they're awful. And the Jets, if they go on to Denver, what?
Awfully injured.
Yeah, I can't imagine the Jets, going to Denver in the elevation, and players are just going to kind of tank. At this point, I'm already seeing that players are, kind of bucking the rider off the saddle. Adam Gase is not popular amongst his players, and it's going to show more and more. The Broncos have only scored 40 points this year. I mean, this is not a juggernaut. If they go out there and lose to another 0-3 team, I honestly believe that Gase is going to be shit canned. He's 20-31 since taking over there. He had that one good season in Miami, and that was it. He has not been successful, and it's getting worse. And that's usually the sign. If by year 3 you're looking this bad, you've lost the locker room.
Another indictment against him is the fact that Tannehill has had all kinds of success in Tennessee as soon as he got away from Adam Gase in Miami.
And it is interesting because Tannehill's a guy who I honestly didn't think would, but then again, Josh Allen, I wouldn't have expected to be doing as well so quickly. So, I mean, they loved his arm coming out, and I'm talking about Josh Allen, not his accuracy, but and he is still making some bonehead plays, but by golly, they're winning football games, and that's what it's about. So much going on around the NFL. Be happy you're 2-1, Browns fans. Don't jump in and be negative. If it's not making you jump up and down on your sofa, spilling your beer all over yourself, give it time. There could be some fun involved in it.
One of the big games next week is the Titans versus the Steelers. We'll see which team actually is a decent team and which team is a mediocre team.
Yeah, we will see. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We will be back again on Friday, and that means we'll be talking pregame analysis again for the Browns and Cowboys game. Everybody have a really enjoyable week, and I'll see you again on Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.